Are you stressed? Are you tired? Do you feel like giving up? Well, this is not the time to give up, but this is the day to be motivated because this is Motivational Monday. Today, I have a very special guest on this podcast episode, From Surviving to Thriving, How to Find Light Through the Darkest Days of Cancer. If you don't know me yet, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Wanda Lintan Kalupig. I am the 2023 top 15 LinkedIn expert in Dubai and 2021 number one most influential Filipina on LinkedIn. Every week, I go live on LinkedIn, different episode, different kind of interview. We share life-saving insights from healthcare experts, cancer survivors, cancer caregiver, because our goal is to share, hope and inspiration to help families and cancer patients and their caregivers find light in the complex journey of cancer. And today I have a very, very special guest. But before I bring her on stage, if you missed the previous episodes, let me do a recap so you can understand which ones is the best one for you to watch. So let me show you the first episode that we had. Yes, thank you, Tim. On the first episode of the Cancer Conversations podcast, I am very blessed to interview the first Emirati UAE national breast cancer surgeon. She is Dr. Hura. She shared about how every woman at the age of 40 and above needs to have mammogram and necessary tests because breast cancer is the number one cause of cancer for women, but it's the most treatable and curable. So please do watch that episode. Go to Linktree Coach Wanda to get access to the recording. Also, on the second episode, another doctor is our guest. Dr. Romy Paredes has been helping patients for over 20 years, helping 24,000 patients to date. And the good thing about Dr. Romy is that Dr. Romy was able to help also a lot of people heal from cancer holistically. He actually have a program called How to Heal from Cancer Holistically. You can go to wellnessland.org to watch that recording. So actually, if you go to Linktree Coach Wanda or go to my LinkedIn account, you can also watch the recording of that. And on the third episode, one of my staff, the husband is suffering from cancer too. But what's most special about this episode is Rose shared how for the last 8 years, their family together is managing the emotional journey of cancer. It's very difficult, but it's possible when you together as a family work on it. Again, go to my LinkedIn account or go to Linktree Coach Wanda to get access to the YouTube podcast. On episode 4, we also interviewed a very special coach, Coach LJ Lagat. I used to be stressed and always sick. And there's a relation to every negative emotion in our life to making us sick. And Coach LJ explained in very detail how every negative emotion leads to sickness and how you can heal yourself emotionally to stop getting sick. So go watch this episode because immediately you can learn tips and tools that you can immediately apply. Also, on episode 5, another cancer overcomer. I love George because at the age of 31, he had cancer all over his body. Only the bone marrow is the one that has no cancer. But he was able to reverse and help heal himself. Even at 39, he had a brain injury too, but at 48 today, he's the healthiest and happiest version of himself. George have a program called Champion Mindset where he teaches people how he was able to overcome the sickness and the struggles that he have. Now on episode 6, so this is another very special interview. Liwa shared how in Jordan there's a very special healthcare payment. Taj Pay is helping people with the healthcare payment with 0% interest. If you want to partner with them on this mission to transform the healthcare payment in Jordan, please contact Liwa Advocate. And of course, on my last interview last week, this is again a very special episode. Dr. Anmol Kapoor shared how genome testing, liquid biopsy, and the latest advancements in technology can help you detect, prevent, and cure cancer more effectively. Go to Linktree Coach Wanda to watch the recording. And I have a very, very special announcement too. Today, I visited one of the oncology centers here in Dubai. It's called Advanced Care Oncology Center. And they have something called a free breast cancer screening. I'll tell more about that later towards the end of the episode. We'll share you how you can get access to that free breast screening because in Dubai, I mean, many countries don't have that free thing, right? It's very expensive, but for the month of October and November, they're giving something for free. Now, let me bring my guest on stage. But before Janita, I get too excited. Maybe I'll introduce you first, okay? Let me wait for Rufa to give me the introduction and then continue. I tend to get very excited, right? So let me introduce Janita. She's with me now because she's a fellow certified public accountant, which makes me very, very excited. She is the director of financial I hope I'm pronouncing it right. This is the Southeast Permanent Medical Group. She is a licensed certified public accountant in Georgia and Pennsylvania and owns Greener Solutions Accounting and Tax Services, LLC, providing services in the health and wellness, real estate industries, and for nonprofit organizations. Miss Green is involved with professional organizations like AICPA, GSCPA, and ABA and Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She also serves as a treasurer and finance committee chair for Grove Park Foundation and holds roles in other community organizations. Wow, that's a lot, Janita. At 56, I'm so impressed
I
with her.
know.
She is a two-time breast cancer overcomer, caregiver for the 95-year-old mom, a professional bodybuilder. I hope I have some muscles. Janita is passionate about wellness and mentoring using her personal journey to inspire others. She's a symbol, really, of resilience and bravery, a real life hero. Her goal is to encourage people to overcome challenges and achieve their potential. Janita, thank you very much for being
You're
here.
welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
It's
I
great
mean,
what you're doing.
I
I
get too
love it.
excited sometimes, so I'm sorry for that. Now, Janita, I know from experience how certified public accountants are very stressed, right? I mean, for some who's doing a finance role, it's the same kind of work day in and day out. But I mean,
Yeah,
that could be one of the reasons. I mean, I used to be stressed and sickly, but it's something that's related to both work and the many responsibilities that I have at work and at home. Now, from your perspective, can you share a bit of journey? What happened? What was your journey with cancer? Can you share a bit about that diagnosis?
sure. So I was about to turn 41, right? Like you said earlier, and doctors say, when you reach 40, you should begin to have a mammogram, to get checked for screening as a woman. So I had just turned 41. And so I had scheduled myself for my baseline mammogram. And this was like April of 2009, after tax season at the time. And a few weeks later, after that, I got a letter in the mail saying that I needed to schedule a follow up for a second mammogram because of dense breast tissue. And I'm like, okay. So I talked to a couple of friends of mine and they said, that's a common occurrence in some women. So I was like, okay, nothing to be concerned about. So I went for the second mammo. After that, I got another letter in the mail a few weeks after that saying that they wanted to do a biopsy again because of my dense tissue. And so I'm like, now I'm a little bit concerned because now you're going to be piercing me. Like I already have a holistic kind of fundamentally, my beliefs are holistic. So I'm kind of mindful already of what comes in and out of my body. And so went for that. And then I got a call from the doctor's office that July saying that they were asking me a bunch of questions. Like the doctor was asking me a bunch of random questions. and she was alluding to that I had breast cancer. So I said, can you just cut to the chase? Like, do I or don't I have this? And so she said, you do. And I'm like, what? Like, I was completely shocked. I couldn't believe it. Like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Like, you got to be kidding me. Me? How? I'm healthy. Like, people come to me for health advice. Like, how is this? You got to be lying. This has to be a trick, you know? So it's like I had all types of reaction to that. And I remember leaving the office saying, I want to get copies of all my records. You know, I want to get another opinion. And I wound up getting 3 opinions. One was from a holistic doctor who, you know, treats cancer patients. And one was like a renowned doctor here where I live. And then the other wound up being a facility where they do integrative medicine, which was more aligned with me. And so after processing it and talking to people in my community, you know, I have a lot of people in my community that are healers, that are holistic practitioners, and they were trying to sway me to take a holistic route. And I didn't know anyone personally who had tackled cancer holistically. So I wound up going with the facility where they combine traditional and non-traditional forms of medicine. And so it was very magical because I wound up being able to go to my hometown to have my procedures done. So I got to be with my family. The process was really kind of seamless how it all played out. I was working with a group of CPAs at the time. I was self-employed at the time, right? So I was working with a group of CPAs, and they were like, you go and handle your health. We'll just put money in your account so that you don't have to worry about finances. And I'm like, who does that? Like, it was nothing but God to me, right? Like, so it was magical in the sense of, even though it was a storm and it was like something I couldn't believe was happening to me, and I had to get over those hurdles mentally. So it was a lot of mental chatter that I had to get over. But I wound up having it was stage 0 is what my diagnosis was, which is why I couldn't, like, what is stage 0 breast cancer? Like, what are you talking about? It's really just cancer that's contained in the ducts of the breast, right? So it was non-invasive. It had not left my ducts, right? So I was blessed in that sense that it was caught early and that it was contained, so it wasn't in my lymphatic system, right? So, you know, I asked lots of questions, had someone come with me so that I was not trying to remember everything on my own, took a lot of notes, and, you know, wound up making a decision around the procedure and the diagnosis. You know, from the diagnosis, I made a decision around the procedure that I was going to have done, and, you know, went through that process with my family. And so, you know, I really just had to reassess how I was doing things and what I was putting in my body. It made me hyper vigilant to a lot of things. And of course, as CPAs, right, we're analytical, right? So I was over analyzing every, like, what could possibly have brought this on? You know, what about my life? What about my choices? What about my food? What about the environment? I was looking, nothing was left, you know, untouched in terms of me trying to figure out, like, what was the source of this. So that's how my journey started. You know, it was 2009. I was 41 years old. Yeah. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Wanda.
Sorry, Janita.
No
I was
worries.
on mute. So, Janita, this is what I'm saying. When I went to one of the oncology centers in Dubai, and they're giving free breast screening mammogram, I was like very excited. Let me share this good news because, first, I never knew that women over 40 needs this. Second, you know, I understood now how critical this is. And I just hope
Very
people
critical.
take a screenshot if you want this in Dubai. If it's free, it's good. And I think what I love about what you said is that when you were diagnosed, you had the right support, right? You have fellow CPAs who were supporting you. There were family members. And I think that is what matters, right? You get the right
Absolutely.
diagnosis, the right support. Now, Janita, that is when you were 41. Now I know, we were discussing that you had cancer twice. Now after 41 you did some, some kind of therapy, and then when did it return, and are there any reasons you think that caused, the cancer coming back again after stage 0?
Yeah. So the treatment that I wound up having was a partial mastectomy and radiation, right? Um, and my doctor said that there was, and I declined like the medication, right? And so I wanted to just take on holistic. So like I was like heavy into raw foods, heavy into juicing, etc. And so there was a up to an 8% chance of it recurring, right? And I was willing to take that risk. And why did I fall in that 8%? Right. And it was 4 years later that it came back. So I was 45 when it came back. And
Mm.
so, in the same area. Right. And so we were
Oh.
both like, this is crazy. Like how, like what is
Mm.
driving this? And so before I took anything did anything aggressive, I wanted to see if I could fight it holistically this time, right? And so I told my doctor that, and he gave me a window in which to do that. So I
Mm.
met and went and paid a lot of money on a lot of holistic stuff, services, and other healing modalities. And one of the tests that I had done was a test of my adrenal system, right? And I found out that my cortisol levels were like through the roof, and that
Oh.
my adrenals were like pretty much burnt, right? And so one of the things I've just learned is that when your adrenal system is burnt, you are susceptible to high inflammation in the body. And, high
Mm.
inflammation is one of the causes of dis-ease in the body, one of which is cancer. So I'm not saying that that was a cause, but in hindsight, what I can see about my life is that, I had pretty much been in fight or flight for the majority of my life. I dealt with
Mm.
childhood trauma as a start, right? And so a lot, childhood trauma, generational trauma, all of that comes through the bloodline, right? And so that all, I believe, played a factor in addition to the environment, the changes in the foods that we eat, right? So, because my cancer diagnosis was hormonal driven, right? And there are a lot of changes in the foods, right? There's hormones injected in chicken. I was eating a lot of chicken at that time, right? I've
Mm.
since cut out chicken. I don't eat chicken anymore, right? Because of the hormones. So I think all those things played in addition to me, really, I had normalized the fight or flight because it had just become a part of my lifestyle, right? And learned behavior. So me running from myself basically most of my life. And I think that all kind of played into this second diagnosis. So I really
You
had to
know,
like assess and make some major changes into how I was operating in my life.
I was trying to think of the previous podcast interviews we had, which actually somehow is related, right? Because as Coach LJ was mentioning, when your cortisols are high, that means you're stressed, right? When you're stressed, high cortisol, then that leads to sickness. So it's really about the emotion, right? And it's about,
Yep.
you mentioned about childhood trauma, generational trauma. Now, Janita, you spoke about the holistic also. Can you explain more? Because sometimes a lot of people, I mean, I met a lot of people who are sick and they're like, no, I'll just take the medicine, and then they even wonder why it's spreading or it's not getting healed. because I think it's time to make it clear that this is not just about the medicine. As like
Right.
you have gone through those traumas and work on that, can you explain more about what does holistic healing mean?
What is holistic healing? I would say holistic healing is a combination of things, right? It's emotional, it's spiritual, it's financial, it's behavioral, right? It's physical, right? So it incorporates, I would say, all of those aspects. And so, it requires, things like healing modalities, right? So, like, one of the things that I've incorporated is infrared sauna. Like, I've actually purchased the infrared sauna, right, that I utilize heavily, right, to
Mm.
cleanse my system. I was doing a lot of juicing prior to, getting back into competition mode. It's not a meal plan item anymore, but I love juicing, right? And so I would juice a lot of um, vegetables and fruits that were prone to, and actually I stayed away from a lot of the fruits. I would juice things like
Mm.
dandelion, cucumber, celery, beets, things that would help to kill cancer cells from what I've read, right? And from, integrated medicine doctors speaking to these things. I took a lot of supplements, right? So
Mm.
green green tea, the omega-369s,
Mm.
turmeric, actually curcumin, not so much turmeric, but curcumin.
Yeah.
It's just there's a lot of things that I take, right, just to help. Um, Vitamin D, zinc, right, to like strengthen my immune system, right? So like strengthen internally. And then my mental, what I tell myself, how I feed myself, how I feed my mind, who I
Mm.
have around me, the people in my circle, right?
Yeah.
Feeding myself and my temple spiritually, right? Keeping that
Mm.
clear and fresh, meditating. And then the physical, the workout, like that pushes me, that gives me the edge, that pushes the stress out of me, right?
Mm.
So to help have balance in my life. So I understand the importance of having balance. I understand the importance of having the right people in my circle. I understand the importance of what am I feeding myself and
Mm.
reprogramming my mind to release those negative things. And even, the traumas that I dealt with, right? Like making sure that I have forgiven myself and those that, were involved in those circumstances and release that stuff out of my system because really traumas lodge in our bodies, right? We don't think about that. But from a
Yeah.
metaphysical standpoint, that stuff gets lodged in the body and it shows up as
Mm.
disease as well, right? So it's like we don't think about these things because it's kind of like almost behind the curtain, but it all plays into the effects that it has on our body and our system. Those are my
Thank you
beliefs.
for sharing that, Janita. Which actually, this is very related. George, another cancer overcomer, is the same thing that he said.
Mm,
How you explained it. Your surroundings. You have to change it. It's about changing also your food. It's about changing your environment. It's about clearing those emotional traumas that
yep,
you didn't even know that it's there, and it's the one that made you sick, right? So I
yep.
think that's a very good point.
I
Now,
gave up alcohol.
wow.
Try to stay away from sugars.
Mm.
Yeah, things like
It's
that.
really a habit, right? It's a habit to
Clean
say
system.
goodbye.
Yes. Yep.
Now, Janita, I know you've been through so much. I mean, you've had many challenges along the way. But maybe what I want to understand is what are those biggest challenges you had and how did you overcome them? Because from surviving to thriving, let's talk about that now. Can you share a bit of story and what are the most difficult moments and how did you overcome them?
So I would say initially, like it was just hmm, fears around like how this happened, um, choosing how I was going to fight it, right? Like, am I going to do this holistically? Am I going to do it traditionally? This is not about what my friends want for me.
Mm.
This is my body, right? These are my choices. I got to do what's best for me, not pleasing you, right? And so, given that my fundamental beliefs are holistic, I was very much leaning, I didn't want to do traditional, but I also, again, don't know anyone personally who's done it
That's that.
holistically and survived, right? So, so it was that. And then after my initial treatment, like I had this crazy 5th-degree burn, right? That I was not aware of was going to
Oh.
occur. And so it threw me for a loop. And it lasted for about 2-3 months, right? And so this is something I had to
Mm.
nurse, and to keep it from any infection occurring, right? And so that was traumatizing, right? Just wow, like this is crazy. And then once I got through that, with the second diagnosis, which way do I go? I wound up having a double mastectomy behind that, right? And then there were
Mm.
complications that I dealt with as a result of the radiation, right? So I had to have, multiple surgeries to correct some things so that I could even, hold implants. And then I had the whole thing of, man, do I even want these foreign things in my body, right? Again, as a holistic person, right?
Mm.
Do I want to have implants? Do I want to use prostheses? Like, which way do I want? And I really struggled with that. I struggled with body image. I struggled with just the mental chatter of, man, is this going to come back again? Okay, you told me that it wasn't if I have, my go through the double, but how do I know, right? Like it came
Mm.
back before. How do I know it's not going to come back again? So that was like a really loud conversation in my mind. And then, I had friends that were transitioning behind it,
Mm.
right? So then, I dealt with, why are you sparing me, God? Like, why are you taking them and not me? And then I would minimize my experience because of the fact that it was like this early diagnosis, like, okay, but you have my friend here going through chemo. Like, well, I guess my thing isn't that bad. I'll keep it to myself, right? So I would minimize. And this is something that I just recently recognized, like within the last week, how I would minimize my experience, right? Because it wasn't as severe as someone battling chemo, right? Which is not necessarily the case, because my journey is my journey and my trauma is my trauma and my experience. Everyone has their own journey and how they deal with it, right? And then I also dealt with physically regaining my strength, right?
Mm.
Like I couldn't lift my arms. I couldn't even lift a pocketbook. um so like the simple things that we take for granted, let alone lifting weights, right? I was
Mm.
afraid of my implants bursting. I was afraid of popping something in my arms, right? Trying to lift over my, like, I couldn't lift a pocketbook. I couldn't lift bags, and then the scar tissue that forms, that I was not informed was going to happen, and how it took over, in my back and in my shoulders and in this. So it's working through all of that to even get back to a point where I could lift and lift weights again. Um, and then just seeing the other patients when I would go in for my visits,
Mm.
and being with other patients that were going through their treatments, right? And so just reliving that internally again, like all the emotion that would come up behind that experience. So it's just the mental and emotional, and then financially, we're not even going to talk about that.
I think so. I remember one doctor told me that, cancer is called a big C for a reason. I mean, because it, there's so much emotion that goes in there. There's so much financial, mental, strain that happens. And I think as
Yes.
you were explaining this story, I can sense how much, because yeah, I agree with you. I mean, every person have their own unique experiences, right? Have their own battles to struggle and to, and I think what I'm very curious about is, how do you stay positive, Janita? Because, I mean, overcoming twice is really something that's we cannot minimize. It's so massive. And I think regardless of stage, it's not even about the stage, right? It's about how you get through it. How do you stay positive throughout the day? I mean, how do you keep yourself, I mean, amidst everything that's happening?
So I've over the years like done a lot of personal and professional development work on myself. I've been working on myself since I was like 21, right? And I
Hmm.
continue to. I understand the importance of like I said, removing that shrapnel out of the unlodging things, reframing my mind, reframing how I think about things, keeping positive thoughts in my mind, feeding positive. I listen to a lot of sermons. I read a lot of scriptures and affirmations. So I'm feeding myself positively on a regular. I don't get into a lot of gossip and stuff that's not really gonna be of any benefit to me. Um, I keep positive minded people around me, right? So don't come over here with negative talk. Don't come over here with negative attitude. I'm not that girl, right? And I know that God spared my life, right? So it's like I'm not confused about that at all. So, I, as a result of these experiences, really want to live inside of God's directive and purpose in my life.
Hmm.
So I'm doing all that I need to do so that my space, my path is clear so that I can hit the target, right?
Yeah.
Working out is like huge for me because that helps me keep my edge. It helps me clear my head. It helps me see, like,
I love that. I learned that there's so much chaos outside, right? When you watch the news, when you go to social media,
distractions.
yeah, there's so much distractions right now, and keeping yourself sane is the most difficult thing to do. But I think I agree with you. It's about the investment in your own professional and personal development. It's about feeding yourself with what fuels you. And affirmations, yes, are very powerful. Whatever will give light to your day, you
Yes,
surround yourself with either books or whatever, friends or family who will shower you with that. Now,
yes,
Janita, I think the other thing I want to know is that you're also a bodybuilder, right?
yes, I
Now,
am.
how do you I mean, you said there was a moment in time you cannot even lift the book, but how did you go back to bodybuilding then? I mean, it's such another miracle that you're able to go to bodybuilding, even if your body, had really difficulties coping up and had the stitches and all. How did you do it?
Um, so it's something that I started. I actually been lifting weights since I was like 15 years old. Um,
Wow.
and so, and it's something that started after like my traumas, like, so it was like something that I started doing as a way to like find my strength in
Hmm.
myself, right? Like find my strength within. I didn't recognize that until like a year ago. I was like doing cardio on my treadmill, and then that thought came to me. I was like, wow, that's part, like I was bawling on my treadmill because I realized that was a part of my why, right? Like that
Hmm.
experience, like even from 15, up to now. But I did my first competition when I was like 30, 38, I think I was 38 years old. And so I was continuing on that path of lifting when I was diagnosed. And I was like, okay, I want to go back and finish what I started. I like to complete things that I start. Right. So, I'm a yes is my yes. I'm a no is my no. I'm not one that talks in between my words. Right. So it's like, you're going to get what you're going to get with me. And so, I'm very driven. I'm very focused. I'm visionary. And so, I had a vision of completing what I even told my doctors, when I was going through it's like, hey, this is something that I love and I want to continue this. And I want to go back once I get through all this to pick it up again. And so it was a mental hurdle. It was a mental hurdle because it was like, again, can I do it? Will I have the strength to even lift? I can't even lift like, how am I going to lift weights? I can't even lift the pocketbook. And how am I going to lift hard? And can I lift hard? And these things, like, will these things pop? Right. And I got these foreign things in me. Right. So it was like the whole negative self-talk that I had about like transforming my mind, into how I was relating to myself and even my body image, because I had a whole body image thing going on with mentally. I have these foreign things here that I really don't like. I don't want here, but I'm here, right? I'm alive, right? So it was just working myself up to the point where once I was mentally ready to step back in the gym, I stepped back in the gym in 2017, and I just found a trainer, and I started to look out for what I wanted in a trainer, and I wound up finding a trainer that handled meal prep and handled my whole package, and I just started listening to my coach. And the next thing we were like, okay, in 2019, we're gonna get back on stage. And I was like, oh, how am I going to do it? I can't even open up my lats, because my lat was like frozen. Right. And one of the things with figure is you got to be able to open up your, show your lat muscles, right. And the symmetry. So I had a whole lot of chatter even about, my shoulder automatically by default folds in, and then half my back muscle is in my chat, so it's just a whole lot of chatter going on. And so pushing through that, getting back in the gym, getting with the trainer, listening to my trainer, and not honoring the thoughts that kept trying to pop up in oh, you can't do this. You're not good enough. You're not going to be able to do it. You're not strong enough. All of those types of thoughts, releasing that and trusting that, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I have my people on my side. Yes, I got this, right? So it was like rising to the occasion. And I wound up hitting the stage again in 2019. That was like my comeback. And one of my girlfriends was like, well, you might as well keep going now. And I was like, I hadn't thought about it. Okay, I'll keep going. And then COVID hit and I kept going regardless. And I was like, adding equipment in my house. And so I was training at home, and then I won my pro card during COVID.
Wow, Janita, that's such a story. I think what I heard here is that you never gave up. And it's about you making the decision even from beginning that, I will finish what I started. Because
Yep.
it's the same thing that I heard from George. He said it's always the champion mindset which you do have, right? And I
Yep.
think which brings me to the next question. I mean, a lot of people, they may be suffering or they may be going into treatment right now. What's your best advice to them? Because you've been through this, you were able to overcome this mental chatter. What's your message to those who are suffering or those who are undergoing treatment? I mean, if you're able to do this one step at a time.
Mm. Stay in the present, stay in the now, feed yourself positive thoughts. Feed yourself positive food,
Oh.
right? So positive food, like I call, like, even spiritually, like I feed myself spiritual food. That's a big one for me, right? Affirmations, that's spiritual food for me, right? To help keep me grounded. Keep the right people around you. So have the right community around you that's going to fully support you and not, have naysayers or people that are going to speak negatively or people that are Debbie Downers or, speaking doom and gloom. Get rid of them. There's no room for that, right? And because the fight is real. It's a real fight. So it takes everything you got, right? And there are days when I just didn't even want to, I didn't want to, right? But like trusting God, for me, trusting God, like, okay, like move through the circumstance. I'm not my circumstance. You're not your circumstance. It's just a circumstance. Who are you going to be in the midst of it?
I love that. You are not your circumstance. How you're going to do about it. Now, Janita, I would love to know, you overcame this. You are now into bodybuilding again. What are your future plans and goals?
What are my future plans and goals? So, as I mentioned earlier, like I truly want to be obedient and carry out God's directive in my life, for my life, and how I'm going to impact the world. I believe that my life was spared to do just that. And so, I want to continue competing. I want to compete in Masters Olympia. That's like one of my goals in like the next 2 years. Masters Olympia is like the Olympia, and Masters Olympia is like the Super Bowl of bodybuilders, right? So
Wow.
Masters Olympia are for bodybuilders over the age of 40. So, that's one of my goals. I also am interested in getting my certification as a trainer and also nutrition counseling. That's something that I've been wanting to do for years. And so that's on my list of things that I want to accomplish. And I want to incorporate that holistically, right? Financial wellness, emotional wellness, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, mental wellness, like wellness in all things, and bringing it all together because they're all interrelated, right? So I want to be able to speak to those things. Professionally, my plan has always been to transition back into my private practice full time at some point. That's something that I started with my father. My father was a self-taught tax preparer. And I'm legacy, right? And so I want to honor that, right? And take what my father started to the next level, right? So that's in my near future, building a niche practice, involving clients and industries that I'm passionate about and bringing that holistic approach of wellness to those spaces.
Thank you, Janita. I think the world really needs. I never knew until I got sick how, all our life is integrated financially, mentally, emotionally, even the food that we eat, the people that we surround ourselves with. This is why, sometimes when people said, you're a certified public accountant, you went into training and coaching, it's like, why? But it changed my life and I want to change people's lives too. So it's how it happened. And I think what
Yes.
I love about what you said is how you want to continue the legacy of your father in terms of, is it tax bookkeeping that is
Yes.
the one,
Tax and
right?
bookkeeping. Yes.
Wow. And you said your father is a self-taught tax bookkeeper. Then that's really
Yep.
something that needs to be preserved. Now we are, wow, imagine we're already 46 minutes. Now,
Gosh,
Janita,
this
any
went
last
fast.
words? Yeah, I know. If there any person who want to work with you, for example, I know in the future you want to have your own, tax service. You are into holistic healing. Um, maybe or a message, what other message you want to share in terms of, from surviving to thriving, how can they find light through the darkest days? Any last words you want to share?
Um, I mean, really just reevaluate your life, you know, and what's important and what matters. And learn to follow your heart and listen to your heart and don't just go through the motions of life because people are just leaving every day, right? So it's like, why are you here? Get to know why you're here. Like, pursue that, right? And like, really try to live life fully, all out on the end of the skinny branches of the tree, in the unknown spaces, right?
Mm.
And not have fear be a deterrent to what it is that God really has for you, right? So those would be
Wow.
my last words.
I love that. Live life fully, find what really you're meant to do. And I think because you said you're spared, you have a big mission to accomplish. So thank
Yeah,
you, Janita. Can
you're
you
welcome.
also share your social media links?
Yes.
How can they find you on social media? Do you have any website? Can you share that with us also?
Yes, I have a website. You have all my details. So I have a social media link. You can find me on LinkedIn under Janita Green. You can find me on Instagram. That's where I, you know, capture really all of my bodybuilding, you know, activities. So you can, you know, find me under Natural Wonder, IFBB Pro, on IG. And, you know, my website is greenersolutioncpa.com.
Thank you again, Janita. I learned so much today. I think you know what validated for me today is how you or George are similar in many ways. I mean, you overcame this, cancer because you became bigger, right? Your mindset, you handled it holistically. You took care of everything. You surround yourself with the right people. You surround yourself with the right food. You
Yep.
gave yourself the soul food, and that for you is God. And I hope a
Yes.
lot of people get to be reminded today, as what you said, reevaluate your life, right? And
Yep.
I call that life audit.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And life or
So
death is in the power of the tongue, too.
yeah. So I'll say today, I hope you do find time to just stop, pause, and audit your life. What matters and what doesn't. And for those things that matters in your life, please prioritize that. Your health is the most important. I mean, tax season will always be there. Work will
Always.
always be there. I mean, we will always overthink things, but I think
Yes.
Janita is a great example of how slowing down, making a decision to finish what you start, and surrounding your life with the right words, the right food, the right environment is going to really change your life. Thank you, Janita,
You're
again. I
very
would love to
welcome.
have you again on the next episodes, I hope. And I'm excited, I'm launching the Cancer E-Clinic. One of the goals is really to have there's a lot. Imagine when you started this journey, nobody was there for you. You had
Yep.
to go to so many people to really understand what holistic healing means. And this is what
A lot of
I want to
research.
bring to the Cancer A Clinic. And I think you'll be one of our best coaches to guide people. So thank you. I look
Very
forward to the
welcome.
future
Absolutely.
working with you. And till the
Likewise.
next episode.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Janita. Thank you for those who are watching us live or on replay. This is the Cancer Conversations with Coach Wanda. Every week we go live here on LinkedIn because our goal is to share life-saving insights and inspiring stories like Janita, so you can find, hope, you can find strength, regardless of what your journey is. So if you do want to be part of our podcast as a guest or as a sponsor, please message me or my team at Kaltan Social Media Marketing. This podcast is sponsored by Kaltan Social Media Marketing. If you want to start your own podcast so you can get seen, get heard, or get clients, please message me or my team. Also, again, I would like to flash this on the screen. If you are in Dubai, this is a very, very great news because you can get a free breast screening. Some clinics charge 600 to 700. I know some clinics are charging different rates, but getting this free is such a gift. This is from Advanced Care Oncology Center. Let me read the number: 058-587-8309, and you can call their number to 04565630. Now, if you are age 40 and above, you get a free mammogram. But if you are below 40, for women age 25 to 40, you will get a free ultrasound. Please get in touch with them. This is such a gift that I hope you get to avail. So again, I would like to invite you on our upcoming episodes. We have our next episodes. We have a next interview with Dr. Neil. We will talk about palliative care. We will also have our guest, Dr. Denki De La Rosa. We will share about how to treat cancer, how to get affordable, high quality cancer cost treatment in the Philippines. There's so much guest that we're having. So I'm very, very excited. Tune in because every week I go live here on LinkedIn. Monday motivation is all about coping with cancer, like what we heard from Janita today. Tuesday therapy is all about the healthcare experts sharing their journey, the latest technology advancements in medicine. Wellness Wednesday is about the alternative ways for you to heal, like how we spoke with Dr. Romy Paredes on how you can heal cancer holistically. We also have Truthful Thursday, and Fearless Friday is about demystifying facts about cancer. Supportive Saturday about charities, organizations who are in the business of treating, preventing, and curing cancer. And Survivor Sunday is about overcomers. So thank you again to my team. To my team, you are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and we also use this podcast in YouTube. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to Linktree Coach Wanda. Go to my LinkedIn profile so you can also watch the recording. Till the next episode, I wish you well. I wish that you all be happy, be healthy. Thank you. This is the Cancer Conversations with Coach Wanda. God bless you.